Okay, good morning, everyone. We are going to start this session. So I'll start with a brief introduction of myself. I'm Estelle Jaligot. I'm newly appointed as a Research Integrity Officer for CIRAD France. And it's my pleasure to share this session about case studies of responsible research practices in different fields. So with no further ado, I will give the floor to Dr. Eero Kaila. He's worked in Tank as an advisor since November 2021, and he works with research misconduct cases as well as projects.
Thank you, Estelle. Thank you, all organizers. I'm very happy to be here and presenting. Can I get, yes, here's the PowerPoint. So my title is From Human Participants to Environmental Research Subjects, Recent Developments in Ethical Pre-Review in Finland. Just shortly on the structure, I will be giving a description on what is the lute project. I'll maintain the Finnish pronunciation. I thought about if I say light, but then that would be something else. So please bear with the lute, even though it's a bit clumsy. And the second part, I will go a bit more technical notes on how the needs assessment was carried out, what were its results. And finally, if I have time, I will give a short sketch on the recent advances on the process of collection of these ethical principles and what are likely to be listed in the possible future guidelines. And yes, you can maybe have questions after this, or then when we meet in the breaks, I'd very much appreciate feedback and questions. So who am I? I'm, as Estelle introduced, Eero Kaila from Helsinki. And well, if I tie back to Aldrich's slide from the plenary, while I have a background in science, I'm a philosopher by trade. I'll be here more in the role of the research integrity officer, and I'm working as more as a messenger here. So adjust your expectations. And TENK is, of course, the National Board on Research Integrity in Finland. And this lute thing, that's the topic of my presentation, is it means ethical pre-review for research done within biological, environmental, and natural sciences and technical sciences, and regardless of method, and research that has something to do with the environment, nature, or any part of these. So the UN's Paris Agreement and EU's Recovery and Resilience Facility, including the horizontal principle of do no significant harm, represent concrete steps in advancement of environmental thought through financing instruments in science. Finnish research organizations have recently included these principles in their financing requirements for research projects. Two committees focusing on ethical pre-review of natural and environmental research were founded independently from each other by the University of Helsinki and by the Natural Resources Institute, Finland, LUKE, in the spring of 2022. TENK held two open events on research ethics concerning natural and environmental sciences on 11th of May 2022 and on 9th of November of the same year. On the grounds of the first one, TENK decided to commission a needs assessment to gauge the need for ethical pre-review in research of natural and environmental research. Veera Launis was hired to prepare the needs assessment, and I was assigned as a second person in doing this project. Veera is now on maternal leave, and so I'm carrying the torch now, and maybe she'll come back one day. The findings of this assessment were presented in the latter event in November. Previously, TENK has prepared guidelines on pre-review concerning research with human research subjects which is abbreviated IEEA. In brief, IEEA refers to the instrument which is described in the ethical principles of research with human participants and ethical review in the human sciences in Finland. These national guidelines were first published in 2009, and the second version was completed in 2019. Higher education and research organizations in Finland have agreed to follow these national guidelines. They are also available in English, and generally everything that I'm referring to here are to be found on the webpage tenk.fi. So the guidelines describe what constitutes ethical principles of research involving human participants, what is considered ethical pre-review in context of human sciences, and whose responsibility it is to make certain research activity comply with research ethics. Finally, the guidelines describe how ethical principles of research on humans are related to good scientific practice, which is relevant for the TENK's research integrity guidelines. Ethical pre-review helps researchers to both recognize challenges before research is commenced and consider alternative courses of action with the guiding idea of minimizing harm. Well, I will not go further into the IEEA. You can look into it yourself. Please refer to the homepage for them. But summing up, lute can be thought of as a sort of a new IEEA for fields involving research on nature, environment, and technology. The needs assessment, which was commenced, asked whether a similar system would be needed for research conducted in these fields. The research subject could be anything, geological, animal, or even some technical research subjects. During the inquiry, it has been the goal to clarify what kind of special features natural and environmental sciences have in comparison with human sciences. Well, I'll try to illustrate the lute with two examples on where it might reside. And the first one is the IEEA's criteria for when ethical pre-review is needed in human sciences. And here you can see the following case. Sorry about the font getting all over each other, but there should be like 1, 2, 3, then 4, 5, 6. So there's 6 criteria, which if they come into effect, then the researcher or PI should request an ethical review from their organization's ethical board in order to continue their work. So for example, if the research deviates from the principle of informed consent in one way or another, then a review is needed. Or if the research subjects are minors under 15, then also. So if the pre-review is not executed properly, a failure to comply with the guidelines can be treated as research misconduct in Finland, although this is very rare. The second example has to do with the DNSH, do no significant harm principles that have been enforced by EU's Taxonomy Act. Again, the 1, 2, and 3 are cut out, and then the 4, 5, and 6. So the basic idea is that research that is being evaluated in terms of this do no significant harm principle, they should advance one of these 6 criteria, and as the name says, they should do no significant harm to the 5 others. And the Finnish Research Council of Finland, formerly the Academy of Finland, has instituted this DNSH principle as a requirement for the funding that they give out in connection with the RRF funds and the green and the digital shift fundings. So if something is wrong, they have this checklist which is evaluated, and if it's deemed that there is significant harm for one of these criteria, then the result is that the funding is denied for the project. So that's the worst case scenario. So as for lute, we are asking, will there be a new checklist in the way that the DNSH is looked for, or will there be a more extensive system of ethical pre-review as is being done currently in Finland in connection with the human sciences? So are we going to end up with another crossbox checklist, or are we preparing another process? A checklist is one possibility in either case. The Research Council of Finland example shows a very straightforward blueprint. However, if the natural sciences end up with more of this human sciences type of ex ante evaluation as described before, there could be a adaptation of the IEEA process. This undertaking would be supervised on a single level. It might be a designated office such as TENK, or it might be situated on the research ethical boards of the research organizations. It's still not finally decided on what level that should be. Yeah, so yes, I explained this already. So what is the current situation? If resources allow, the process can be initiated, coordinated by TENK. We would believe that national principles achieved in this way and ethical peer review work based on them would increase the awareness of effects of research on nature and environment. The principles collected in cooperations, the principles that would be collected in cooperations with the scientific community, and they would help to develop and unify the research ethics practices in these fields in Finland. Together, these would improve ethics and quality of research. So the current situation is that the government aid for the continuation of this lute project was granted this June, and this allows for follow-up work on the subject in TENK. In its last meeting in August, TENK decided, well, it's not the last anymore, but in its meeting in August, TENK decided upon the formation of a steering group and a working group, and work is expected to resume in this month when the funding period starts. Natural Resources Institute LUKE is also working on ethical principles, although they are also in a very early stage. So this was in the nutshell of what is lute, and I'll now go to the more technical section of how this needs assessment was conducted. And needs assessment had an aim to determine whether national ethical principles and a model of ethical pre-review would be needed for natural and environmental as well as technical fields of research in Finland. To achieve this aim, 3 sources of information were used: expert interviews, a questionnaire for scientific societies, and an email questionnaire for ENRIO members. Veera Launis interviewed 20 experts in person and via Zoom. The experts were from a diverse set of organizations, including universities, organization of higher education, other research organizations. There were 11 women and 9 men included in this 20 group, so gender balance was quite fine. And the titles included research vice rector, director of research, dean, professor, science advisor, and university lecturer. I was in charge of the questionnaire sent to 106 scientific societies, and while only 13 societies replied, we were considering that this was significant because the societies can be quite large with more than hundreds of members. So finally, the email questions for ENRIO members received 7 answers. And what were the results? Out of the 20 interviewed experts, majority of the respondents, 16, took a positive stance toward the proposition to collect ethical principles of natural and environmental sciences to be published as guidelines. The experts were a bit more critical toward the ethical pre-review. Nevertheless, the idea of pre-review received support for more than half of the respondents. This is the similar question that were asked from the societies, and there were also a stronger tendency for the collection of the ethical principles, as the chart on the left shows, and the need for ethical pre-review on the right showed a little less enthusiastic support, but nevertheless more than half were very accepting or positive on them. Yes, so the results, ethical principles for research on natural and environmental research subject are needed in Finland. The pros included increased quality of research, and ethical pre-review received generally positive feedback. However, some criticism was raised against this idea. Some of the respondents were concerned that bureaucracy would increase due to such measures, and others were concerned about the issues related to demarcation. For example, it's not immediately clear always how you can separate mankind from the nature in first place. And other results were that the European Union's do no significant harm principle is quite well known within these fields in Finland. It was seen as a factor that has raised interest toward research ethics in natural and environmental sciences, and it's an issue that has, it is seen that it will have even more of an effect in the future. Yes, so it was considered successful, and this needs assessment has been published, but unfortunately it's only available in Finnish currently. We're looking in maybe translating it if there is interest, and but it's available online. So based on the results of the needs assessment, TENK recommended as a follow-up that a process would be launched in Finland to prepare ethical principles for natural and environmental research. Along with the principles being mapped out, future need for ethical pre-review should be evaluated. As the work begins, alternative processes for this or working models are to be planned for nationally coordinated pre-review and for ethical committees. So that's it for the second part, the technical part. And this final part, I'm trying to give you an idea of what kind of ethical principles are likely to be included in future guidelines, but be aware that this is very much work in progress. So there was this preliminary exercise that was conducted on March 15th, where a workshop was held for research integrity professionals. The results were collected from this workshop, and I compared this with the concluding presentation by TENK member Simo Kyllönen, who held the concluding presentation the same day. And both were this workshop and Simo were listing out these possible principles, and I found out that there was quite much overlap, and some of these topics that were common was this might be very local idea in Finland, but the rights of the indigenous peoples are very much likely to be included, and Simo kind of analyzed these principles in terms of their justification. And in this case, it's autonomy. And there are obvious principles of avoiding harm to both animals and human beings, including the researchers themselves. Outside of avoiding direct harm, attention should be given to international law as well as local legislation. And this would include also the aversion of the dual use, I mean the military extensions. So these are principles determined by avoidance of harm. The adherence to the do no significant harm principle can have more benefits than inconvenience, as no significant harm to environment is demanded. Similarly, the endangered status should be forced of animals and to preserve the species for the intrinsic value as well as the viewpoint of biodiversity. So these three were, or this group was, the justification was benefit is greater than harm. And finally, long-term risks should be written open, and uncertainty should be monitored by adhering to the precautionary principle. And these could be, like Simo, he classified these in terms of intergenerational justice or just distribution. So there were other things here, but I think I maybe we're starting to run out of time, maybe. It's we're fine. Okay, so there were other topics: regulation of commercial products, conservation of natural species, conservation of genetic diversity, and definition of different groups of animals, biotechnology, genetics, selective breeding, and increasing trust towards science. So this concludes my presentation. I have some questions, but you can, of course, come up with your own. Just a big thank you to Veera Launis, who led the project, and Simo for letting me use his classifications, and everyone at thanks Secretariat for the PowerPoint templates and everything. Thank you. That's fine.
Thank you very much. So now we will take questions. So before asking your question, please introduce yourself briefly. Anyone? No? Okay. Anything online? Sorry. Any question online? Don't see any. There's not a full view of. Okay, so no question.
Okay. Well, thank you.
So you're clear. You're free now.
Hello, everyone. Nice to be invited here. Thank you for this opportunity. I see that my slides are not cutted, so I'm very happy. I will present a qualitative study in which we try to somehow embed ethics and research integrity into laboratory research within STEM people, which is not easy, as perhaps some or most of you already experienced. The study is already published recently on the title very similar to my presentation, if you would like to learn more. The study was set up within Cartago consortium. Cartago is a short for cartilaginous tissue regeneration by gene therapy. It's a Horizon consortium Marie Curie innovative training action. Maybe some of you know what is this about. This provides training for PhD students who are developing their PhD within consortium in different countries and different universities. The overall goal of this consortium is to address the applicability of gene therapy in all traces and disc degeneration. So very specific fields. I myself philosopher and research ethicist by training. So as you can imagine, it's not very easy to discuss and to be kind of involved with that kind of very specific laboratory field and to identify ethical issues. So we come up with the idea to work very closely with the researchers at the consortium. And to somehow identify that there's knowledge about ethics and how they think about ethics related to their lab research. To do that, we design a study in which we were mostly doing focus groups with early stage researchers, PhD students, a member of the consortium. It was 14 of them. All of them are working at the laboratories doing preclinical research, so not research with human subjects. They are from different countries, very diverse group, tiny but very diverse group, and they're living in also different countries. They have all of them have STEM background: chemistry, biology, engineering, biomedical science, toxicology, drug delivery, and so on. So not somehow related to ethics as a knowledge or art, whatever you define it whatsoever. And their research topics is also very, I would say, technical from my point of view: cell delivery and efficiency, gene modulation, tissue organ delivery tools, repair in tissue and organ culture, in vivo imaging of regeneration, gene therapy efficacy. When they are talking with themselves on the workshops, it's kind of sometimes the discussion are so closely technical about so tiny details regarding the differences within some gels that it's really hard to follow, not being involved into that research. I'm talking about that just to draw a bigger picture, that it's kind of hard from my point of view as an ethicist to go into that people and somehow co-identify with them the ethical issues and somehow develop the common language to discuss ethics with them. As I said, the group is tiny but diverse. They are living and working now in different countries. To start, when we started the study, we obviously asked the bioethics committee for the permission, and we informed them about the aims of the study and so on. I will talk a little bit about methods, how we come up with the idea, how to identify the ethical issues, the knowledge, and how to also identify the progress, because we believe that the focus group somehow gave them the new ideas about ethics, and we wanted to also somehow register that change. So to register that change, we started with the questionnaire before we started the focus group, which consists very general questions about ethics and what they do, what they know about ethics, whether they believe that their field had any ethical issues. And we also finished the focus groups after many months with the same questionnaire, asking exactly the same question, just to register whether they learned something, whether they made progress, or whether they changed their minds regarding ethics. We obviously piloted both questionnaire and focus groups just to follow the rules of qualitative study. The goal of the first questionnaire was to obtain initial insight to the ESR, early stage researchers' perspective on ethics. And the second questionnaire, as I said, was provided very similar questions. So that's the reason we were allowed to capture changers. Our research strategy refer to three approaches: ethics parallel research, which was developed by Jongsma and Brennort, researchers from the Netherlands. The concept of social labs, because we believe that being a part of the consortium, we somehow are building something which these days is called a lab, social lab, living lab. That's one of another description. We were part of this lab, and we somehow registered changes within this lab. And obviously the responsible research and innovation framework provided by European Commission. We also set the general focus groups goals according to the consortium goal, which were part of the proposal to identify bioethical challenges of gene therapy and regenerative medicine, and to promote research integrity, discussing with the laboratory researchers during the focus group. Every focus group was performed and followed the plan we prepared before. Hopefully you can see at least partially what is written here. These are the aims of every single focus groups, because we started from very general questions. We wanted to build an environment of exploration, debate, and training on ethics. That was the idea of first focus group, and then obviously we were focusing on some specific issues to discuss. When researchers somehow build the trust that they can openly talk about there's problems with ethics in their own laboratories, they somehow come up with more and more information, and we also provided them ethical both theories and some practical solutions to their challenges. So every group was going this way, and we somehow developed both trust and knowledge, and I also believe some practical eventually solutions to that group. And they really, and this is interesting, and I think kind of unique experience, at least in my life as an ethicist and researcher, because since they are STEM people, very, from my point of view, technical and practical, and oriented in their own laboratory research, I'm also a bit skeptical regarding whether they will be interested in ethics, because some of them are not really. But actually, it happened that they were really extremely involved, and they really were waiting, as they said in anonymous questionnaires at the end, for next focus groups, because we somehow built a very nice forum and kind of trust within them, and they really enjoy that kind of focus groups, which obviously we like a lot. Then going into the details of the methods, we transcribed verbatim and pseudonymized the results of these focus groups. We analyzed them using thematic content analysis. So we coded them using MaxCUDA, and then we used the comprehensive consolidated criteria for reporting qualitative research, correct. And these are the results. I will briefly describe them. We somehow asked them what they think about the very general terms or ideas in ethics. So whether do you believe that ethics and research integrity concepts should be sufficiently introduced into research? As you can see, most of them strongly agree. Whether this effectively develops your ability to reflect on research ethics, about 40% of them agreed on that. whether sorry, I'm too far, of course. Yeah, I'm sorry. I just when I'm giving seminars, they are not hybrid, so sometimes I walk too much. Very sorry. Increase awareness about ethical issues and so on and so on. So as you can see, most of them either strongly agreed that this somehow helped them to identify and develop these skills, which is the green color, or agree, which is blue color, which we believe it's success. Here are there it's cut it a little bit. Here are some insights before the meeting, what they were thinking about ethics, and after the meeting. I think that it was about I don't actually remember. There is another part of the table. It's about integrity of data, I think. Do you know, by the way, why they are cut it? All our slides? What ethics? Okay, thank you for helping me with my own presentation. Anyway, I will not obviously read this all, but I just wanted to show that there is a difference between what they think before and what they think afterward. And just to summarize this quantitatively, before the focus groups, 55 of them believe that what they are doing in the lab has something to do with research integrity, and there are some ethical challenges. 57% of them, half of them more or less, believe that. And after focus group, all of them believe, like, of course, laboratory research has something to do with ethics. So we really brainwashed them. And to conclude that, I believe that, you know, that kind of approach, when the laboratory researchers somehow connected with us and were able to discuss very freely what they think about ethics, there was no bad answers. What do you think it's ethics? And then we somehow slowly introduced some ethical concept and discuss with them. We somehow co-work with that. Allowed us provide this contextual and real-time ethical guidance. And I believe that inclusion and involvement of this early stage researchers was crucial. They were satisfied or very satisfied at the very end of the meetings, and we believe it's a potential way of embedding ethics into laboratory research. As the founder, we are very grateful, and you can read the paper with all the tables, not cut it, on the slide. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any question?
Thank you very much. Tamarine de Haven from Tilburg University in the Netherlands. I have two small questions. One is that at the beginning you said that part of the goal of this intervention was, you know, to go in and to co-develop a common language for ethics. Could you say a little bit more about that? Because I didn't really see it reflected back in simple statements where maybe 13 out of 14 students may say yay, nor in your quote. So how did you measure whether you were successful in co-developing this common language? And the other thing was, if you could say a little bit more about the sort of extent to which this was a compulsory thing for students, right? Because a big question I think many of us will ask, and many of us may have, you know, experience in developing these sort of interventions, is, okay, how do we scale this up? And, you know, if we can already start by making that compulsory for everyone, that's great, but that might not have been the setting. So what was your setting where this was taking place? Thank you.
Thank you. So we didn't measure the language itself. We measure only whether they were satisfied or not with the focus groups, and in an anonymous they gave anonymous responses, and as I showed, they were satisfied or very satisfied. What I mean by co-developing the common language, I think we somehow first we listen to them. What do you mean? What do you think? What is ethics? And they somehow define what they believe it's ethics. Then we somehow introduce more, let's say, professional definitions of ethics. So they somehow started to co-use them. You know, we set the common language for that. This is how we developed that. Is that clear? Or so it was kind of living process. I couldn't say that we develop, you know, special terms or special definitions. We somehow learn from each other in a slow pace. I would say. We didn't measure whether it was success. I mean, measure in a way that they needed to define some ethical terms at the very end, and they were successful, or they redefined them. The first questionnaire, they say what they believe it's research integrity, and at the very end, they also say. I think they somehow started to use our language, meaning the more professional language. But on the other hand, they also introduced some fields which we, in a classical way, don't believe they are connected with ethics from the very beginning. You know, they are not like very classical ethical issues, but they identify these issues or challenges as connected with their fields. So they also gave us an input. Is that clear, more or less? And the second was that was
scaling up.
Yeah.
She has a second question about scaling up.
Scaling up. Yeah. So they had right not to participate in that. It was informed consent. They could, you know, decide I'm not participating, but all of them agreed. I think this should be compulsory if we really need to be successful. That's my short answer.
Okay, thank you. Any other question? Okay, no one online. Okay, so now, last but not least,
Thank you.
Professor Dirk Lanzerath from University of Bonn.
Yeah, thank you very much, Estelle. Thank you very much for you as audience. We will present you a bit about our EU-funded project, IREX. And when I say we, it's not a pluralis majestatis. I do it together with my colleague, Sandra Scholl. She is a postdoc at our German Reference Center for Ethics in the Life Sciences. And she's in charge of IREX and know a lot of details more than I do. IREX is not just a EU-funded project. It's a part of a movement to establish something like an ethics governance concept in research performing institutions. And we look very straight to new and challenging and emerging technologies. And what is their relation to ethics governance? I mean, Stephanie quoted this morning the German rocket scientist Werner von Braun, who said, "It's not my department." When you read the European Code of Conduct and see respect for colleagues, research participants, and ecosystem, and environment, and society, and cultural heritage like human remains, then it's a bunch of questions for researchers. And I think no modern researcher can say it's not my department. So, however, it's a question, what does that mean in our practice of a university, of a huge research institution? I think it's important to have these relationships between the different players on your mind map. You have research in medicine, in agriculture, in humanities, informatics, physics, etc. Very different languages, very different methodologies. But research and science is not just knowledge gathering and a certain type of methodologies. No, it's a social practice. And this social practice is not an island somewhere. The social practice is a social practice in a social practice. So you have competition, you have hierarchies in the system, and both elements are very important to consider violations and problems of good scientific practice. You have this outside view from funders, from scientific journals, from societies, different types of stakeholders. And what we see, I'm also Secretary General of the European Network of Research Ethics Committees. We often receive requests, oh, we need an ethics approval, but we don't have an ethics committee for my methodology. So that means we need in a good research performing organization, those consultation opportunities, whatever that means. I'm not a fan of too many ethics committees and too many approvals. We don't need much more paperwork and administrative burdens. It should be much more a consultative process. And there can be also helpful ethics centers, law schools, etc., and to have a dialogue among all these people. And this dialogue should also lead to some training programs. And very often when I talk with senior researchers, oh yes, we need to train the PhD candidates in research ethics and research integrity. No, we also need to train the seniors and the institute directors. Yeah, I like very much workshops where they are all together. I have a lot of very interesting experience when we study some cases, for example, and then the director says, oh, that would never happen in my department. And the PhD students said, well, what happened last week? Yeah, so these type of dialogue we need. And what we consider is that we should support a kind of ethos of research. And when we go back to the origin of the concept of ethos, it's Old Greek. There are two types of spellings in the Old Greek language. The one with the letter E like epsilon, and the other one with the letter E, eta. And both have slightly different meaning. The epsilon meaning is the custom, the habit of a group, of a community. The eta version has the meaning of my own individual character, habit, attitude. And both belong together. So an individual researcher in an institute will be completely alone and lost. Yeah, he or she needs the community, and the other way around. Also, a rector will be lost when the researchers have different types of attitudes. So this belonging together and the autonomy to decide in my own research project, my own department, that's so important to build up an ethos of research and an ethics governance. And what we exactly do now in the IREX project, that will be now explained by Sandra. Yeah.
Yes, now I will talk a bit more about IREX in details. And as Dirk already mentioned, new and emerging technologies create a need for government schemes that help to ensure that research on and with such technologies is conducted responsibly. The IREX project develops and pilot tests an institutional governance model that combines guidance and educational elements. And we follow, as you can see, a model with different levels that build up on each other. And the basis is the analysis of the ethical challenges posed by new and emerging technologies. And based on this, the training materials for researchers and members for ethics committees are developed. And this is followed by the implementation and conduction of the training courses. And in addition, the exchange between the relevant stakeholders will be encouraged, and the materials will also be disseminated sustainably and systematically on existing platforms for research ethics and integrity. Yes, in the first phase, which is the analysis phase, a survey identified 4 focus technologies that IREX will concentrate on. These are AI and healthcare applications, biobanking, extended reality, and gene editing, including both human and non-human applications. And these technologies are interesting for us because these technologies are used in very different fields and very broad areas. And this means that there are a lot of different guidelines how to responsibly use these technologies, and different disciplines also means different ethics committees and different ethics review practice in general. So in addition, ethical challenges in research on new technologies may differ from those challenges that arise in their applications. So that's the point we want to address with IREX. And for this purpose, these 4 technologies were examined in more details for the ethical challenges in terms of ethical review and ethics dumping. One of the main outcomes of this analysis phase, among other things, is a database of articles, which is related to ethical and legal issues for technologies. And this is a very rough structure for one technology, the example of AI and health. And when the database is developed, it will be part of the ENRIO Classroom website. I will come back to ENRIO 2 slides later. And if it is ready, users can filter the literature we did research on by using keywords, time periods, and ethical and legal categories. So then a list of articles appears, including keywords and abstracts. So by using this database, you get an overview of the existing literature on technologies filtered through relevant aspects we did research on. The next phase is the development phase, and this is where the training materials and the awareness actions for researchers, research ethics experts, and students are developed finally. And this includes also a teacher and a learner guide, and proposals and recommendations for new ethics review processes adapted to the challenges of new technologies. And to support this, some case studies are developed for each technologies to help researchers to understand their ethical dimensions of their work. So, for example, the opportunities presented by using AI to diagnose skin cancer are offset by the risk of discrimination on privacy, for example. The resulting materials will appear on the ENRIO Classroom platform. Just as a reminder, this is a Horizon 2020 project, which ended in 2019 and which continues to be active as a research ethics and integrity network. And this leverages networks and sustainably integrates past EU projects. Of course, there will be a link to the Embassy of Good Science on the website. So this allows us to spread the materials and trainings through different channels of communication. The final phase is the implementation phase, and here the training programs and materials will be implemented in a sustainable manner, and also will go beyond the pilot testing phase we do at our pilot universities. That will be at least 3, Bonn, Split, and Maastricht. And the implementation does not end with the end of the project, should not end with the end of the project. We learn through the pilot testing and thus revisit the initial lessons we learned, so we can improve the training courses in materials. This means that we build evaluation loops in the process to make the quality of the outputs as high as possible and to do it as sustainable as possible. The IREX team in general consists of 17 institutions from Europe and non-European countries. And here you can see the members of the consortium, which are located in Europe. In addition, we have also partners from China, Korea, and Africa, respectively. And yes, the team is from very diverse backgrounds, enabling a constructive exchange. Additionally, we collaborate with European networks that help us to get in touch with corresponding parties and disseminate trainings and materials we are developing. We team up with, as you can see, ENRIO, ALIA, the Embassy of Good Science, ENRI, EARMA, EUREC, EUA, and EXA. And yes, as Dirk already mentioned in the beginning, the IREX impact should come both within science and within society. And within science, the goal is to further educate research ethics experts, to expand this pool of experts, and to sustainably improve the quality and performance of new ethics review system. This goes hand in hand with the requirements that arise in cooperation with society, namely that trust in research and innovation is built and strengthened, and that ethics dumping is reduced. The project is finally supported by an interactive stakeholder advisory board. We meet regularly and incorporate their feedback into our daily work. They already helped us a lot to specify the key technologies, and the members of the SIB are selected in a balanced way and cover different areas, both industry and education, as well as politics and civil society, and they complement the project with their expertise. So I don't know if you want to add something or.
Just for example, the EUA, the European University Association, is important for this ethics governance project because we built up 3 pilot universities with this ethics governance structure, and they should then transport it into the community of the European universities, so to disseminate our developments.
Thank you. Do we have questions? No, everyone is eager to go to lunch.
All crystal clear.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, that's the optimistic version. Nothing online? Once, twice? Okay. So I've been tasked with a strategic information. We expected for lunch next to the auditorium where the coffee break was served. Okay, thank you, everyone.